So now we're at the state capitol. The locals call it Beacon Hill, but it's also known as the hub of the solar system. And we thought it'd be a great place to start talking about constitutional law.
You know, the hub isn't the only nickname for Boston.
Oh no? There are other nicknames for Boston? Tell me more.
It's also known as Beantown, which apparently has something to do with baked beans.
Yeah, this is happening. Oh, that's a horrible nickname. I'm sorry, horrible. Hey everybody, welcome to the constitutional law portion of our online seminar, or as I like to call it, I Fought Con Law and Con Law Won. Yeah, okay. Moving on. So for this section, we're going to kick it off with some course mastery, and then you will actually get to hear from one of our esteemed authors, Lee Epstein. And then after that, you're going to get a chance to do a fun scavenger hunt in the Con Law Resource Center, and of course there will be a quiz. So this should take you no more than 25 or 30 minutes total. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, the course. So who takes this course? Where is it found? As you can see here, this is a junior senior level course. About 45,000 students a year take this course. So it is definitely one of the larger courses that you will sell into. You're going to find this course at pretty much every well-established political science program. And because it's a pretty hefty course, it is predominantly majors that are going to take this course. Okay, so let's talk about the course itself. What are these folks here to learn? Well, it's really all about the Constitution, right? So overall, the course is designed to give students breadth and depth of understanding on American constitutional law. The course examines a wide range of contemporary issues that are subject to constitutional interpretation. It introduces students to the Constitution, the fundamental concepts of the constitutional law, the role of the courts, and the legal limitations on government policymaking. There's a discussion and analysis of a number of topics such as separation of powers, freedom of speech, affirmative action, civil rights, campaign financing, privacy rights, abortion, capital punishment, gun control, and on and on. So as you can see, this is a fascinating and very in-depth course. One of the goals of this course is to help students understand both the legal and political aspects of the important constitutional decisions that have shaped our country. U.S. constitutional law cannot be discussed or understood without taking into account the political realities that surround most constitutional disputes. Similarly, the outcome of these disputes is profoundly affected by legal argument and precedent. So obviously, learning the fundamental content of constitutional law is really at the heart of this course. But in addition, students are there to work toward skill mastery. So skill building in these areas that you see here are also a really important component of this course. Articulation. So students will discuss the moral issues surrounding the constitutional decisions about things like the death penalty, abortion, things like that. So it's really, there's a lot of articulation and debate in this course. Using research methods to answer political questions. Students are encouraged to use appropriate methods of analysis and research, including qualitative and quantitative methods, historical comparison, and textual interpretation to understand political questions. Writing. This course has a very strong writing component. Students are encouraged and expected to write professional grade research papers on political science questions. And then also to oral presentations. Students are encouraged to present ideas in high quality oral presentations. Professors really take this opportunity to help their students improve their presentation skills in this course with the expectation that they should become better at explaining and defending their ideas to a group. So writing, researching, and presenting. So we're going to talk now a little bit about the organization of this course. So based on what you've heard so far, obviously there's just a lot to be covered in this course. And because of that, typically, not always, but typically you're going to find this course divided into two parts. There's a semester spent dealing with the institutional powers, so Supreme Courts, judiciary, legislative, etc. And then there's actually a second semester course that's spent on civil rights and liberties, and we call that the rights side of it. Now, in some cases, you'll actually find both of these combined into one semester. Yowza, that is a lot of content. And in that case, we refer to that course as the short course. And it makes sense because it's a shorter time period, but it's also kind of an anomaly because when you see the actual books that are designed for the short course, they are not short. They are much bigger than the other separate books. So anyway, the first thing that you want to determine in any program, either by looking at the course schedule or just asking, is this a single course or a two-course sequence? And no matter what they say, you actually have a book for every single approach. We have 3 titles here by Epstein and Walker for the constitutional law course. So you can see here the first 2 are rights and liberties, right? Rights and liberties, and then institutional powers, right? So those are for the 2-semester sequence. And then the third one here is the short course, which is very thick and is a book that would be used if they combine 2 into 1 semester. These authors are award-winning and market-leading authors. These are million-dollar franchises for us, and so we're just incredibly pleased and proud to be representing these books. And as I mentioned, you will hear from Lee Epstein in just a few minutes, so bear with me. She'll be here to tell you all about the books. So let's talk more about what they're actually learning when they get into their classroom. So here's kind of a typical course sequence. So actually, before they even get to class, there is a ton of pre-reading. So like I said, if you actually hold one of those books in your hands, they're very dense, very comprehensive. There's a lot of reading involved in this course. And they have to do it. They're tested on it, they're quizzed on it. I mean, reading is just an essential part of getting a good grade in this course and understanding. And then when they get into class, they will kick it off with a topical discussion. So if they're talking about rights, they're going to have a discussion about things like the Bill of Rights or freedom of speech, freedom of the press. If it's institutions, they're going to talk about legislature, federalism, the power to tax and spend, right? So these are kind of the topical things that they'll talk about. And then with each one of those topics, they will spend time doing a deep dive into the supporting Supreme Court case examples. So for each one of these topics, there's a whole list of Supreme Court cases that really illustrate the fundamental concepts and kind of nuances of these topics. And so they spend a lot of time reading, discussing, debating, and analyzing court cases. And along with that, like I said, it's in-class discussion of the cases, but also debate. They debate all the different issues that surround these different cases. So you can imagine it's a very lively classroom setting. In addition to all this reading and discussing, as we mentioned, there is definitely a writing component. They're expected to write papers. They're expected to present around these topics in these cases. And when you start talking to these instructors, they will all tell you that class participation, showing up to class, is a must, right? Being in class to build all these skills is one of the most important components of this course. So the students have to show up to get the grade. So when you do start talking with these instructors, here are the things that they're going to be wanting to talk about, right? So one of the first words out of their mouths will be cases. They want cases. So not only do they want kind of the typical historical sort of milestone, Plessy versus Ferguson type cases that are going to be incorporated in any common law book, right? They also want recent cases, right? So they want a nice mix of kind of the historical cases, but then also what's going on, right now in Supreme Court. In this day and age with just everything changing so rapidly, politically, socially, there's just a lot of kind of new material that they want to be covering and that students are eager to talk about and dissect in class. Instructors want kind of apparatus around those cases. So they want prompt, discussion points, things that are going to help them kind of orchestrate that good, rich classroom debate and classroom discussion. They want hypothetical cases. So in some situations, it's actually easier to explain kind of the nuances of some of these topics with kind of a made-up case. So hypothetical cases and cases, hypothetical cases that haven't, that will allow students to have a more open debate. They also want an archive of prior cases. They really just want all the cases. They want to be able to call on any case, as the discussion merits. In addition to that, they want history and background. So what was going on in the 1960s when all of these really landmark Supreme Court cases were happening, when it comes to desegregation. And then, like we said, reading is a really important component of this course, and instructors need to make sure that their students are reading and comprehending everything in the book. And so quizzing and flashcards are things that, types of resources that they will ask for. So this is a lot, right? But don't fret, never fear. You actually can deliver on all of these needs. And what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is the Con Law Resource Center. So in addition to the books, we have this great, very rich, deep database of cases, all of these types of cases. So the milestone cases, full cases, every June we update this database with the recent court cases. It's got all of the kind of debate prompts, hypothetical cases, a moot court simulation, and you'll learn about what that is in a few minutes when you get a chance to kind of play around. But it's got all of those things that your instructors are going to be asking for, and on top of it, it's free. Okay, this can be bundled for free with the Epstein Walker books. It really is just a deep vessel of important cases that students have to read to get the full understanding of the course. And not only does this beautifully complement the content of the books, but it really assesses students' understanding of the cases and outcomes, as well as their impact on the future. The Resource Center is filled with the milestone cases, updated cases, but in addition, like we said, it's also got those flashcards, quizzing, and all those things that your instructors are going to be asking for. So when you get into your political science department this fall and you come across somebody who teaches con law, you're going to ask about the organization of the course, you're going to ask about course goals, and when they start talking about cases, you are going to show them the Con Law Resource Center. You're going to walk through that with them so that they see all of this great material that they have at their fingertips. Okay, so that concludes the course mastery section of this. But just stay tuned, because coming up next, you are going to have an interview, or going to see an interview with our esteemed author, Lee Epstein, who's going to tell you all about her book and what you need to know about her book and what sets it apart. Lee is a distinguished professor at Washington University in St. Louis. Not only is she a recipient of 12 grants from the National Science Foundation for her work on law and legal institutions, but she is also a recipient of the Teaching and Mentoring Award from the Law and Court section of the APSA. So she is sort of a rock star when it comes to constitutional law. So sit tight, and here comes Lee.